Dr. Monty, seemingly one of Cod Zombies' strangest and most powerful characters. Initially teased as early as the release of Shadows of Evil, Dr. Monty was the owner of the titular Gobblegum factory, and as the game went on, more layers were revealed about this mysterious character. In both Horizon and Zetsubo no Shima, various hints are dropped about his appearance, with only the letter M used to identify himself. Maxis describes him as a being that knows all, and Richtofen always seems to avoid the question when asked about his mysterious benefactor. Throughout the game's narrative, it became unclear to players what exactly the goal was. What was the purpose of collecting these souls? Why was Richtofen being so ambiguous about the necessity of the blood vials? And how will it all end? Well, finally, in Gorag Krovi, in the map's final hour, all this comes together when Dr. Monty appears. But he doesn't exactly make things easier to understand. He begins by speaking directly in the heads of Dempsey, Takio, and Nikolai, announcing himself as Dr. Monty, a being with unlimited wealth of power and knowledge, attempting to fix the universe in the only way he knows how. All this concludes in the experience known as Revelations, and in it, Dr. Monty, with the help of Primis, seemingly fixes the universe, with everyone getting to go home and live their respective lives. A godlike figure who just wants to help everyone out. All's well that ends well, right? The end. Well, as many of you know, that's not the full story. So, hello there fellow zombie slayers, my name is Stanley557. With the discovery of 7 recently solved ciphers from Revelations, I wanted to make a video taking a deep dive into this character. Dr. Monty has always raised a ton of red flags in the narrative of Black Ops 3 and Black Ops 4, and I feel the consequences of his actions are often considered retcons or retroactive writing by the fans who experience these games. So, I wanted to make this video to discuss these ciphers and the character of Dr. Monty. Despite being a stand-in for the concept of God in the Cod Zombies universe, Dr. Monty is a surprisingly morally gray being with human-like qualities and goals. So sit back and relax as we talk about him and discuss why he is one of Cod Zombies' most misunderstood villains. Much like Monty himself, this is a huge video topic, and it's going to be difficult to categorize everything properly, from Monty as a character, to his role in the story, to even his power stat. So stay with me as I try to break down all this information. He's a complex character that appears in many different forms, through the mouths of many different people, and characterized as many different things based on what ciphers, radios, and in-game lore tell you about him. So in this video, I aim to simplify all of that into one concise discussion. So first, let's start off with who Dr. Monty is in Black Ops 3 Zombies. This is important to give us the initial context we're meant to perceive him under. Dr. Monty is the omnipresent god of the Cod Zombies multiverse and ruler of the Keepers. To start, he's honestly not even a god, at least not one that can simply create or transfer matter. He is simply an overseer, an omnipotent being who keeps the universe in order and offers a helping hand where he best sees it fit, using the tools at his disposal in order to enact his plans. While his role and how he accomplishes it is often kept vague, it's best understood if we compare him with his opposite, the Shadow Man. Ruler of the Apothecons, the Shadow Man sows chaos wherever he goes, a malicious force trying to end all of creation. Monty is simply his opposite, a radical guardian who will do what is best to protect existence and the unraveling of creation. We see this role best fulfilled in Revelations, with Primis and Sophia defeating the Shadow Man, and Maxis and Monty prepping for the reset of the multiverse now that the children are secured. In one of the newly solved ciphers, we get this text blurb from Monty himself describing what his role in this conflict truly was. Now that the many worlds are one, it has reset. There are no Apothecons, Keepers, or 115 knocking around to cause trouble. Now I can focus on the children, making sure they grow up in a better place. M. Cipher 11 and much of Black Ops 3 explains to us what the actual outcome of fixing the multiverse is. It's a means to combine all worlds as one, and remove all corruption spurred on by 115, the Apothecons, and even the Keepers. With them gone, there should be no corruption ever again, and that's the exact picture that Black Ops 3 creates for Monty. It's why the story concludes with the end. Monty's worst action in this specific viewing of the events is that he sends Primis to the Great War for trying to escape being deleted from reality. Primis specifically are from Dimension 63, which is destroyed by the Apothecons shortly after the events of Shadows of Evil. They simply have no home to return to, and thus, this specific version of them should be erased from existence once Monty merges all the worlds together. The children are here, so they don't need to exist anymore, but they are still here. By consuming the blood vials from the mobsters from Dimension 63 and the Victus crew from the original universe, our characters have created a paradox. They can't exist without the blood, and the blood can't exist without the universe that they originate from. It's a perpetual cycle defying the very laws of the universe. Because of this, Monty claims he will simply wipe them out, but is stopped when he realizes he can send them to the Great War to be the heroes that create the future, thus fulfilling their roles in the story. In Black Ops 3, this is all painted as a happy ending, with additional ciphers even showing that Samantha and the children got to live good lives with Monty as their caretaker. It shows that even through all the madness, there was some good that came out of it. Which is nice to hear, especially when you consider what happens to Samantha in Cold War. This is revealed to us in the newly solved ciphers 6, 9, and 11. Final entry. I have run out of pages for this journal, so it seems fitting that this is my last entry. I'm leaving the house for good, and I don't think I'll ever return. Father has been gone for many years now, and I miss him. I think of him often. Monty says he is not dead, but has just evolved into a new form. I guess you could say that Monty is my father now. Really, the father to all of us kids that grew up here at the house. We know the sacrifices that it took to get us here and keep us safe. I will always love them for that. A debt that can never be repaid. Monty was going to take me to the lake today to go swimming. I love floating in the water with the warm sun dancing on the surface and watching the clouds slowly pass overhead. Sometimes I think I see Father in those clouds looking down on me, and I smile. I always be with me. Samantha. And with that, Samantha and the children get to go on to live good lives, and with that, the cycle begins anew, with the first one creating the summoning key, and from it, creation begins all over again, thanks to Monty, Maxis, and Primis's effort. This is the story of the cycle, the life, death, and victory over the forces of evil. It starts with Richtofen and Schuster teleporting a walnut, and ends with the very fabric of reality unraveling. Naturally, the story is complete. The thing is, in Black Ops 3, all this is presented as a natural occurrence in the universe, the very law by which Black Ops 3, and Cod Zombies as a whole as a metacontextual piece of media, abides by. But is any of that a bad thing? Well, let's see what evidence is provided to us in Black Ops 4. Black Ops 4 begins with Blood of the Dead, and starts what is known as the Broken Cycle, which is described to have occurred when Weasel breaks the cycle in Mob of the Dead. Not much happens in context to Monty's story in Blood. The map simply recognizes why the blood vials are so powerful, and that Nikolai must keep his soul in order to defeat the Keeper Overlord. How that is going to happen remains unclear, so let's shift over to Alpha Omega, where the narrative provides the first real argument against Dr. Monty and his mission. The map's intro cutscene is fairly tame on the surface, but it's Nikolai's narration that lays the groundwork for the effects of the cycle. As he reads the Chronorium for the first time, we see the information he consumes firsthand in the depth to which he is exposed to. He sees various worlds, figures, and people all torn apart by their actions. The cycle isn't just a loop, it is a never-ending circle of suffering that is continually happening across all moments of space and time. From Nikolai's perspective, we finally see what is truly occurring in the zombie storyline, the unending suffering inflicted upon each and every being within the multiverse. The bow isn't just tied in Revelations, it is a perpetuating poison that is repeated over and over again, and caught in the middle of it are people just trying to survive. This is then dug even deeper within the map by Dr. Maxis. Over the course of 5 radios, Maxis expresses his fears as to why Richtofen and the crew haven't returned to the house, and discovers and plainly spells out what Dr. Monty's plans are. Dr. Monty was never going to save the multiverse. In fact, the crew's plans to subvert their deaths was exactly what he wanted to happen. It was always destined for them to fight in the Great War. This grand insurance policy to survive was already interwoven into the very fabric of the universe as early as the events of Revelations. Maxis postulates Monty already knows this, and even condemns him for trying to keep the cycle going, accusing him of keeping it going for the very reason of always maintaining control. If Monty wanted to, he could absolutely end the cycle, never send Primis back to the Great War, never allow Maxis and Sophia to merge into the first one, and extinguish all of Element 115 forever. But he doesn't. As Maxis states, to do so would be to also destroy himself and Agartha. And finally, the map concludes with Monty eating Maxis alive for betraying him before sending the kids away. But Monty wouldn't do that. He's not a bad person, right? So BO3 presents us with one version of Monty, Blood of the Dead and Alpha Omega present us with another. In one narrative, he's this all-powerful god who protects the very fabric of the universe. But in the other, he's this demon who is equally as bad as the Shadow Man, one who eats people alive to maintain even a semblance of his grip on reality. Clearly, he's afraid of the end. So what does Dr. Toten have to say about him? Well, we get a couple of viewpoints, but the two most important are from Primis Nikolai and Primis Richthofen. From a first-hand account from Pablo Marinez, Audio Log 3 details Richthofen coming to terms with the cycle. In an effort to try and do the right thing, he recognizes that it's both he and Monty who have forged the cycle. Monty simply being complicit in order to maintain control, and Richthofen even suggesting the idea to ensure he and his friends live forever. It's exactly why Richthofen requests Monty to send them back to the Great War in Black Ops 3. It is a request that he has made time and time again in order to continue to live forever. But finally, Richthofen no longer wants to play that game, and Monty isn't happy about it. But then in Audio Log 4, we see an epiphany hit Richthofen. Dr. Monty is not inherently evil. Dr. Monty, he says, is just trying to save the multiverse in the safest way he knows how. By forcing us into this cycle, our story will never end. Well, also, his universe and his existence will be guaranteed. I can't blame him, he says. Dr. Monty is much just like you and me. He just wants to survive. He doesn't want to risk his own annihilation. And there it is, the linchpin that presents to us exactly what Dr. Monty is, a flawed entity with a desire for life. One who has allowed fear into his heart and has enacted endless eons of suffering just for the chance to remain in control and live and breathe just like you and I do now. Now let's bring up what Primis Nikolai says in Tog. Richthofen asks him if he knows the difference between who were the good ones and who were the bad ones in this conflict, asking Nikolai to place which deity fits these respective roles. Nikolai responds by saying, Monty and Shadow Man were more similar than you know, Richthofen. Both were corrupted by the Dark Ether. One by his own ambition, the other desperately trying to save his friend. It is Nikolai's conclusion that reminds us what Dr. Monty is, a morally gray figure, one just as equally corrupted as the Shadow Man, just one side of the same coin. Regardless of who tried to save the other, they both ended up corrupted. The Shadow Man in an endless conquest of chaos, and Monty in a fruitless endeavor to control all. Black Ops 4 doesn't conclude with telling the audience that Dr. Monty is evil. It presents the idea and viewpoint, but then it takes that viewpoint and deconstructs it, fully breaking it down in an honest conclusion that explains to the audience that anyone can be corrupted and compromise their morals. It's a companion piece to Black Ops 3 that provides context and consequences to what is seemingly just a battle of good versus evil. Monty absolutely had the power to stop Primis from drinking the blood vials, but his morals were completely compromised to the point of no return, forcing him to kill anyone and anything in order to maintain what he understands as the best case scenario. Ultimately though, it's important to recognize that it has to end. Monty and the crew were enacting endless suffering across the multiverse, allowing the cycle to repeat over and over again, and was why it had to end, which is the exact conclusion that Nikolai comes to as soon as he reached the Chronorium for the first time before the events of Alpha Omega. To Monty's defense, why wouldn't he? No one wants to fade away, and at that point, Monty is simply doing exactly what he believes is best for not only existence, but himself. Who knows what would happen if reality weren't under his protective control? And in some ways, he was right, especially when you look at the Dark Ether and how that spiraled out of control. But in other ways, reality was always falling apart and on the verge of collapse until he saved it. The story was sustainable, but it still caused suffering, and that was why it was so important for it to end and fade away into the Dark Ether. The unknown is scary, but in that unknown, something new could blossom, and that's what we have today. But that's the story of Dr. Monty across Black Ops 3 and 4. I truly don't subscribe to the notion that Black Ops 4 retcons the story beats of Black Ops 3. If anything, it's a companion piece that contextualizes everything that happens in Black Ops 3. The story of Monty needs to be viewed by different narrators that present them. Black Ops 3's narrator is clearly Monty himself, or at least an idealized Richthofen who looks up to him. Under this lens, it presents to us the idea that Monty is a truly altruistic figure. Under the narration of a paranoid Maxis in Alpha Omega, he is seen as malevolent, one hell-bent on maintaining order. And finally in Dr. Toten, under the narration of Primis Nikolai, Monty is recharacterized with completely human flaws and fears. He is spoken about with a clear understanding, and Nikolai sees Monty for what he truly is narratively, a mirror for our main characters. This is why the theme that Monty presents is so important. Black Ops 3 is all about the essence of mortality. It is a tale that asks the audience to question what they would do to live another day. How much suffering will you enact for your own twisted goals? Monty is a character meant to parallel Primis. He is a godlike being who desires the exact same outcome that they do. Black Ops 3 lays the groundwork for this theming, and Black Ops 4 fully explores it, with Monty's complicit nature put into question. In the end, the conclusion is morally gray, and it's up to you, the audience, to decide if what anyone did was good or bad. It's a surprisingly mature tale that forces you to even question characters as noble as Takio. This is where Monty comes into the story. He is a mirror for our characters. At every moment throughout Black Ops 3, we hear Richtofen reiterate he is trying so very hard to do the right thing, and that quality echoes throughout Monty, a figure Richtofen looks up to. He is doing everything in his power to maintain order and correct the dying multiverse. But without Black Ops 4, he is simply a god that yearns to fix everything. It is Black Ops 4 that gives us his full character, reminding us even deities such as him yearn for salvation. And in the end, the right thing to do was to let go, for the characters to unbind themselves from the Aether and find peace in death. But at the end of the day, this is simply my interpretation of the events of Black Ops 3 and 4 and how they drive Monty's character, on top of the history that we talked about with him. Most people do not agree with the idea that he was the antagonist, and many find Black Ops 4 to be a complete retcon of his character and his ideology. Regardless of how you feel, I hope this video helped you learn a thing or two about this ominous god. If you disagree with me, let me know in the comments below. Trust me, this discussion is exactly the kind of conversation Blundell wanted figures like Monty to have, and the fact that we're still discussing new revelations about him nearly 10 years later is a testament to his ability to craft these fantastical worlds. And if you like this video, please let me know if you'd like to see similar deep dives and discussions for other characters. It's nice to change up things every once in a while and not make 14-hour videos that take a full year to make. So let me know. But with that said, thank you all so much for watching. And remember, keep on slaying.